again, there are one-time costs and there are recurring costs in terms of a business. And these are just things that people should be aware of, that this is actually the cost of doing business. You know, a lot of people, they look at the business and they think, oh, it's all, money, 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 like generating money. But a lot of business is also expenses, right? So like know that this comes with every, revenue that you generate, like comes with expenses, and these are those expenses.
So one of the things that you always hear from people online that want to sell you the idea of creating a business or buying a course from them about starting a business is they're always going to talk about your top line revenue. They're always going to talk about the big numbers like, oh, I made $1 million. Well, did you really make $1 million? No, usually that $1 million was eaten up, and it's eaten up by these things, the recurring costs.
Yeah, they like to talk about sales. They don't like to talk about profit. And that's a video for a different time. We're going to make that because I think a lot of people get confused with the difference between sales and profit. And sales doesn't really matter. It's the profit that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what you're paying tax on.
Okay. So, recurring costs, very basic: website, domain, online presence. So, online presence will include like social media as well.
Yeah, so your websites and your domain, your domain, expect to pay a couple of $100 a month for that, or a couple of $100 a year, sorry, to several $1,000s, depending on how popular that domain is. Other website costs, just general hosting,
yeah.
$50, $100 a month. So you're already looking at probably $1,700 minimum as a recurring cost for the year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the next, advertising and marketing. Sky's the limit with this. We've seen ad spends of like $10,000 a day, like really crazy for larger businesses. But, in the beginning, I would say most of what we've seen with people is probably a couple $100 a month in ads is what they spend.
Yeah, so this is what's called a variable cost. So this would fluctuate on the basis of, how much product you're actually selling. So obviously you would be spending more and more advertising and marketing budget depending on how much product you're moving and then how much revenue you're generating.
Yep, and this could also be seasonal. So for example, like tax season, obviously most accountants, they'll advertise during tax season, so like January to April, and then the rest of the year they're not so heavy on advertising, so it also fluctuates seasonally.
Yeah, and then as another good example, you've got say for example, a Shopify store. A lot of your advertising would be around the November and December period when you've got the Black Friday sales and the Christmas sales too.
Around the holidays mostly. So, yeah, I guess that's it for advertising and marketing. Like we don't, like personally in our company, we don't have any ad spend in terms of like, Facebook, Google ads, things like that. Most of what we do is really content generation.
Yeah, so a lot of what we do is just very targeted content to bring people to our website via videos like this. And that's simply done just by, doing SEO research and trying to find and pick up trends on the internet.
Okay, so I think that's it for advertising. Next would be, this is the fun stuff. So this is, I personally...
Fun for who?
Fun for me. I like all of these. So I like software, I like doing the research. So for me, this is fun. So number 3 would be the practice management. So if you're not familiar with that, it's just basically the software you use to run your company. This could be anything from a very specialized software like us, for example. Like there are things targeted for the accounting industry, like Tax Dome, Financial Sense, stuff like that. Those are practice management softwares. But it could also be a more general software like, Monday.com.
Or HubSpot is another one.
Yeah, things like that.
And then, booking softwares like Calendly. But there's
Acuity, scheduling, and stuff like that.
There's a huge range of software available. And this is the thing that we see a lot, especially in service-based businesses. So they go crazy on the software. I mean, we do too. But a lot of the software we're probably saying the same thing. We need it.
Yeah, we
but
need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you will spend quite a bit of money on software, and this is a recurring cost that's going to be several $100s a month, depending on how complex your needs are. So if you were to create something very, very basic,
If you're doing everything through email, like you just need the G Suite, like
yeah, you
that's
just
it.
need a G Suite. But things can get out of hand very quickly with that once you have multiple clients. That's why Shopify is quite good, because they kind of build sort of a customer list for you, using the way that they track data.
But again, this would depend on the type of service you offer as well, right? So it also is dependent on your company. So if you are, let's say, if you're marketing your services as part, like one of the tenets of your service is like we're the convenience kind of thing, where it's convenient to work with you, right? So you're not just on email. You could have a client portal. You could have even a dedicated mobile app, things like that. So it just depends on how you market your business and how you need to support that type of marketing. So your software needs to support that. So again, this could be anything from a couple $100 a month to a couple of like 10, 20, $30,000,
Yeah,
depending on how large your operation is.
the cost gets up there very quickly, and it really depends on either two major variables. The first variable is how many people are going to be using the software in terms of clients. So I mean that could obviously expound quite quickly. And then you've got the variable of how many internal users you've got in your own company. So if you've got a small company but a large range of customers, it's probably good to pick software where you're being charged on the basis of how many internal users you have, and not external customers.
Yeah. So again, it would depend on your business, but just be aware this is like a recurring cost that you will have to pay each month. Okay, next. So this is obviously where we're at. So insurance, accounting, and bank fees. I think the reason why we're actually putting this in recurring costs is people have this impression, or maybe new business owners have this impression where accounting is like a once a year type of thing that you need to
And
do.
a lot of it's coming from the fact that they've been employees before, and they've been filing their taxes with TurboTax for $200 once a year, and they think that their accounting cost should only be $200. Another thing that we see that's quite common in this industry is the fact that people are so objectionable to bank fees. Now, banks allow you to transact very, very easily and are a very secure source to place your funds. Now, when it comes to bank fees, I always just tell business owners this is simply the cost of doing business. Just eat it. Doesn't matter what they are, unless you're being silly and opening 10,000 accounts and getting charged $10 a month for each account. I mean, there's no point in that.
And there's obviously like a trade off. This is what we see all the time with business owners, and we want them to face the reality of the situation. You want to get paid faster? Then open up credit card payments. But the credit card payments come with higher bank fees. You want to get paid slower? Sure. Do everything via e-transfer, via checks. You're not going to have that much bank fees, but your cash flow will suffer. And I 100% guarantee you, if you allow credit card payments, you will get paid faster. Every single client who has turned on credit card payments has never complained about the bank fees after that, because they're too busy being paid quickly.
Yeah, that's another important point. As well, when it comes to your accounting fees, the way that you bank also affects your accounting fees. So if you're opening multiple numbers of accounts, you're doing random, silly transactions which are erroneous, which compounds the work that people like us need to do. And what's another one? If you're
Multi-currency.
if you're adding complexity to your banking, so multi-currency, PayPal, Stripe, these third-party
If you have so
payment
many
processors.
payment processors.
Yeah, payment processors. You're essentially compounding your accounting costs too. And on that, just the last point in insurance. Now, this is going to range depending on what type of business you're in.
And there are different types
Yeah,
of
there
insurance.
are many, many different types. So from services to simply selling products, you've got protection, liability protection
You have
insurance.
like errors and omissions insurance, like
Yeah.
professional insurance. There's general liability insurance. You know, if someone like trips and falls in your storefront, something like that, like you need insurance for that as well.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very heavily dependent on what industry you're in. So just take as a note, your insurance costs are going to be minimum $1,000 a year. The base would be $1,000 a year. So on this as well, we'll just cover it quickly. Websites and domain, online presence, you're probably paying $1,500 a year for that. Advertising, marketing, that's going to go up
Sky's the limit.
exponentially depending on how much you sell, but several $100s a month base. Practice management software as well, probably $100 a month base, and insurance $1,000 a year. So you're looking at possibly somewhere between $400 to $500 minimum a month there.
So $6,000 a year minimum.
Yeah, $6,000 a year minimum, and we haven't even covered the accounting fees yet, which is on the next slide.
Okay, so we wanted to do this so that you guys have an idea of like how much accounting actually costs. So you may look at this and think, oh my God, this is so expensive. Or, oh my God, this is so cheap, right? Like, this is not what I get charged. Like, I got charged way more than this. It's like, yes, this is a base range. Base meaning like this is like the bare minimum of what you should be expecting to pay.
And by bare minimum, what we're really saying as well is, it's a single owner company, very
One bank
standard
account, one
amount
bank account.
transactions, standard amount of accounts, one bank account, one credit card, probably a loan, annual HST filing, not quarterly, possibly very basic 1 month, one time a month payroll, and then your annual filing fees. And this is another thing at the very bottom. A lot of people forget corporate minute books, so that needs to be done annually as well.
Yeah, so we hope that this gives you more of an idea of what the price range is, really, to get a bookkeeper in Canada. If you want to outsource abroad, try to freelance, sure, it could be less than this. What we're giving you right now is what you would pay a bookkeeper, a decent bookkeeper in Canada who has some idea of what they're doing.
Yeah, a decent bookkeeper and a decent accountant. And there's something else you need to know here. So when it comes to the filings at the bottom, if you outsource to a person overseas that is not a Canadian resident nor a citizen, and they don't have a corporation in Canada, these people won't be able to file anything for you. So they'll take your money, and they can do the bookkeeping possibly, but they probably won't be able to file anything, and their expertise in sales tax may be lacking, which is something we want to highlight, because when it comes to sales tax, Canada actually has the most complicated sales tax system in the world.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but we have the most complicated sales tax. So a lot of people are unfamiliar with it. We're not some basic, country like the UK where they have like a flat VAT, or like Australia where they have flat GST, right? Our GST changes per province. Things can get claimed back. Things do not get claimed back like BST. So it's way more complicated than what people think it is.
Yeah, so on this, just note that, if you're looking at this and thinking, wow, $6,000 is expensive for, just running a sole prop, or $6,500 for a corp, I can't afford that, then maybe you should be rethinking whether or not your business idea is going to be a decent one.
Yeah, because if your business idea can't even make enough profit to pay these overhead costs, you should not even start. There's no point. You're not going to make enough money to have a decent profit. And another thing we want to touch on, and it will be in a different video, is should you incorporate or not? A lot of people, want to incorporate thinking, oh, I'm going to save money because corporations pay less taxes. Not necessarily. If you keep pulling all the money out of your corp anyways, there's no tax savings in there. But we can tackle that some other time. We just want you guys to be aware. This is the cost. So you may think as well, okay, let's say 6,400 in the corp for the low range. If you want to incorporate, you have to leave enough money in your business to have this worth it as tax as thing as something that you have to pay for your corporation, right? So the tax savings of your corporation should be more than this.
Yeah, think about it like bank fees. It's simply just the cost of doing business. Now, upsets a lot of people. I don't know why. Right, because when we get to the end, probably you're going to find out running a business may not be for you, because we're going to explain the stuff that a lot of the influencers don't really like to talk about.
And, you may think we're doom and gloom or something like that, but we're not. We're just telling you the reality of the situation, because we get so many calls from, it's heartbreaking sometimes, like from these new business owners that got suckered in by, follow my course and you'll have $10,000 a month on Shopify. And this old lady,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll talk about it later.
But we're making this because we see this quite a lot now, where people are buying into courses telling them that they'll earn $100,000 a year from Shopify. So what they mean by that is you'll make $100,000 in sales. They're not talking about any of the expenses you need to pay for that. They're not talking about how you've probably paid 35% of that in inventory costs. They're not talking about any of the expenses. They're just talking about top line revenue.
Yeah.
And we're just giving you what the expenses of running a business are actually going to be, so that you can work out whether or not this idea that you may be going into or maybe thinking about will be able to meet some of these costs, which are just simply the cost of doing business.
If it's even feasible, right? So there you go. Okay, so we put this last because not everyone will have these expenses. So obviously rent and utilities, if you are you don't have a physical storefront, you won't have this. Payroll and subcontractors. So in the very beginning, a lot of people, they're the only people in their company, so they don't take any payroll. So this usually comes later down the line. And we want to emphasize taxes. Taxes is a recurring cost, okay? It's the cost of doing business. You gotta pay taxes.
Yeah, that's why it's there twice.
Yeah.
Because if you are selling in Canada to Canadian citizens, Canadian residents, you will be paying sales tax. You will be paying income tax if you're making a profit. And any payroll you will be paying yourself, you will be paying, or, an employee, you'll be paying payroll tax on. So there are a number of taxes that you need to pay, that you need to keep on top of, and their filing schedules are all different. And, that's how people like us help. We help keep people on top of this as much as humanly possible.
Yeah. Okay, next. Incidental costs. So these are not recurring costs, okay? They're not one-time costs, but they're like minor expenses in business. And we emphasize the word minor, okay? Because these expense categories are so used and abused by so many business owners, and it's no surprise these are also the most audited expense line categories in a corporate tax return, because the CRA does know that the business owners like to, I wouldn't say pad these expenses, but have a lot of these expenses that may be unnecessary.
Yeah, so no putting in your golf games or, your health memberships or, your gym memberships.
Your dinner with your sister is not a business expense. You're
offside. All right. If you have to ask, you're probably offside. You'll know what these incidental costs will be. For example, if you were having a company-wide where everyone in the company is invited and you're having a big annual dinner, that's obviously a expense for your business. But if you're just going out to the pub to buy some food, because
with some of your employees,
or no, not even some of your employees, just by yourself or having a lunch break, that is not a business expense. That's you just buying lunch.
Yeah. Okay, we won't tackle this too much, but just be aware these are very, very highly audited by the CRA, so be very careful with these expense accounts.
Especially vehicle. You don't want to be thinking about, oh, I'm going to have this, very expensive vehicle in the company or anything like that. Because I mean, the vehicle costs are capped as well. So you're just being a bit silly when you think that.
No logbook, no vehicle
Yeah.
expenses, period. You have to, if it's not a purely company car, like this is like your personal vehicle and you're saying you're using it for business purposes, you better have a mileage
Yeah.
log.
So the one that we always recommend for this
Mile
is
IQ.
Mile IQ.
And we'll list that down below as well.
Yeah, we don't get any benefit from them. They just have a great platform, and every Canadian that has a vehicle that they're claiming should be using this.
And just so you guys are aware, the reason why we say you should have a mileage log is because the mileage log is the first thing that the CRA asks for. If you can't produce that, everything else is downhill from that point on.
And when it comes to these things as well, when you're claiming incidentals, there's no point claiming something that you think is a bit spurious, because you're essentially throwing away your credibility in front of the CRA and the credibility you have with yourself. There's no point arguing over $50 meal expense when it's a bit offside. You may as well just only focus on the actual business expenses.
Yeah. Hey guys, it's Arielle here from Fix My Books. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and helping my YouTube channel grow. If there are any videos you want to see on my channel, please don't hesitate to comment them down below. I always listen to your feedback. And once again, this is Arielle from Fix My Books, helping you fix your books.